Shen Xiu inexplicably traveled to the world of the supernatural seminary on hellish difficulty. He had an extra letter and a blue cube that could turn him into a ship girl. In order to survive in this highly dangerous world and find his way home, he needs to prepare some protective measures for himself before wandering on other planes. So, Shen Xiu came to Tianhe City, brought his own Erguotou, picked up a sun goddess that fell from the sky, and decided to rob a Grand Cross vanguard flagship of the Gluttony Legion first. The main world of Super Theological Academy has already involved worlds such as Wandering Earth, Robotic Story, King of Glory, Brother Corpse, and Pacific Rim, keywords of the novel. Starting from the Xiongbing Company, hacking into the infinite pop-up window, starting from the Xiongbing Company, hacking into the infinite TXT complete collection download, starting from the Xiongbing Company, hacking into the infinite latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. I want to rob that thing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. I want to rob that thing. Tianhe City has imposed martial law throughout the city, and the military and police are working together to maintain order and transport people out of the city. Shen Xiu walked on the chaotic street with a bottle of Erguotou, calmly avoiding several police officers who wanted to come and command him to blend into the crowd and follow the army's evacuation. He traveled through time and inexplicably arrived in this world, without any warning signs. It was quite sudden. He also knows this world, the Super Theological Academy, a domestically produced science fiction anime. In this world, the danger is extremely high. As an ordinary person, Shen Xiu doesn't have any so-called super genes. If he doesn't fight hard, he can only entrust his life and live a precarious life. It's better to rely on oneself than on anyone else. Shen Xiu knows this well. 3 months ago, he had just traveled to this world and only had a blue cubic crystal on his body. A letter wrote, "Throw that crystal into a mechanical body so that you can survive in this world and even explore other worlds. That thing comes from Blue Line, and you should know its purpose. Whether you can survive or not depends on yourself." For the term Blue Root, Shen Xiu's main impression is of a large group of girls named Ship Lady. Although there was still a bit of confusion, after working part-time for 3 months, Shen Xiu still decided to take control of his own life. The ship's mother on the Blue Route is a second type of humanoid high-tech life form created using a blue cubic crystal and human ship technology. According to the prompts, the crystal in my hand probably has a similar function. As long as I integrate it into a mechanical body, such as a phone, car, or aircraft carrier, perhaps he can become the first ship mother in the world of the super seminary. And with the characteristics of a ship mother, a large part of her strength depends on the model and strength of the ship. Although she can handle it with cars and mobile phones, it does not have much effect on improving her strength. If you want to do it, do something big. Among all the mechanical bodies that Shen Xiu has had the opportunity to encounter recently, what aircraft carrier can compare to an alien Gluttony Legion Cross Vanguard flagship equipped with a god-slaying equipment launch pad? With the savings saved from working as a black laborer for 3 months and a map of Tianhe City, I arrived at the place where the first war broke out. After only waiting for 2 days, the gluttony arrived. Smoke filled the air, and the entire city gradually turned into ruins. Energy shells flew everywhere, destroying high-rise buildings and taking away countless lives. Shen Xiu's face remained unchanged, indifferent to all kinds of tragedies, and he continued to move forward with a slight drunkenness. Everyone was the same, struggling to survive, and it was good to be alive. Moreover, he had no worries about the world, so he had no intention of worrying about others. Shen Xiu walked towards the tallest building in the center of Tianhe City. As for why this building was the tallest, it was because the taller building had disappeared 3 minutes ago. Underneath the building, until I found this woman lying on the ground, with a golden glowing spear running through her lower abdomen, her eyebrows furrowed, constantly twisted and moaning in pain. Shen Xiu paused in his footsteps, crouched down, and a sincere smile appeared on his face. He smiled happily. "Goddess, do you need help? You look terrible. Rena was in excruciating pain, and upon hearing the sound, she glanced at the guy squatting next to her. Laughing like a fool. There's a problem at first glance. Taking a deep breath and boosting her spirits, Rena looked at the man and said, "Who are you?" "An ordinary earthling." Hiccup. The smell of high alcohol made Rena feel a bit uncomfortable, but she still hasn't forgotten why she came to this city. "Ordinary people, why are you wandering around? Why don't you follow the army to evacuate? Can they really all go out?" Shen Xiu just smiled when he heard the sun goddess's majestic words. "Even if you reluctantly evacuate, if you can't win against this alien enemy, you will eventually be killed no matter where you escape, won't you?" As he spoke, Shen Xiu reached out and grabbed the god-slaying spear that ran through Rena's abdomen. "Finally, may I ask if you need help? There are so many gluttons here, staying for an extra minute would be very dangerous for you. Speak as if you're safe." Rena didn't say anything to refuse, just muttered a few words like a stubborn little girl. Shen Xiu didn't hesitate either. He threw Erguotou aside and stepped on Rena with a big golden knife. His other thigh was straightened, and his arms suddenly became strong, gripping the spear and pulling it upwards. Under Shen Xiu's body, Rena hasn't had time to complain about the dishonest position of Shen Xiu's foot. She brightens her face and frowns deeply. "Bastard. Pull it out gently. It hurts." Pushi. The spear detached and made a muffled sound. Shen Xiu was driven by inertia and rubbed back a few steps, feeling a bit dizzy after drinking. However, fortunately, he managed to stabilize his figure. After weighing the heavy weight of the god-killing spear in his hand, Shen Xiu nodded secretly with satisfaction. Across from her, Rena was already able to slowly stand up from the bottom. The wound on her lower abdomen, pierced by the spear of god-killing, was being repaired rapidly. During this process, a large amount of golden energy light was also shining from the wound, making Shen Xiu's eyes couldn't help but show a hint of envy. However, he quickly adjusted his mindset. Super genes are the accumulation of countless years of civilization from other civilizations, and he definitely won't have the opportunity to come into contact with them for the time being, so that thing can only be seen with envy. "Hey, that one over there, thank you just now. Anyway, it's very dangerous here. Hurry up and follow your army to evacuate. As an ordinary person, you can live for a day. Let's leave the battlefield on the front line to us soldiers." Rena covered her lower abdomen and connected to her teammates through the dark plane communication link, reporting her current situation. Just as she was about to return to the battlefield and take charge of the overall situation, before leaving, she hesitated for a moment, paused in her footsteps, and turned back to shout at Shen Xiu. "Anyway, this guy helped her a little bit. It seems that he didn't mean to do it on purpose, so please forgive him for his previous impolite behavior." After Rena finished speaking, Shen Xiu stood still, unmoved. He just smiled faintly, with a feeling of being an unscrupulous businessman. "Thank you, it's just paid service," she said, "aha." Rena's eyebrows twitched as she looked at this ordinary earthling in a daze. "Just now I saved you, so it's fair for you to do me a favor later, right?" The battle situation became increasingly fierce, and we couldn't stay here for too long. Rena's voice began to be a bit impolite. "What exactly do you want?" Shen Xiu was not intimidated by Rena's tone, but extended a finger to the vanguard flagship of the gluttonous army hovering low on the other side of Tianhe City. "I want to rob that thing." End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Cooperation Achievements. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Cooperation Achievements. It's still daylight now. Inexplicably, Shen Xiu felt that this woman, known as a goddess, actually had the effect of being a charged doll and looking at her with strange eyes, as if caring for a fool, full of pity. "I know, and by the way, I didn't dream or talk nonsense. Stop making trouble and hide well. It's very dangerous here. The portion you helped me with just now, after repelling the gluttony, I can help you fight for any compensation you want, provided that you can survive. With a glance at the man who might have been drunk and confused, Rena decisively turned around, looked up, and leaped lightly like a shell, jumping up to the roof of the nearby building. At the bottom of the building, Shen Xiu's mouth twitched, he silently lowered his head, sighed, and followed into the building. Well, Shen Xiu walks the stairs. A building with dozens of floors. Another thing is that safety pants are indeed one of the most evil inventions in the world, and cannot reflect trust between people at all. Are you joking? If you ask him to hide, he will hide. He wants to save someone's face. Besides, in this city of Tianhe, which is full of gluttony, where can we hide safely next to Rena? Yawen just organized well. Everyone, take their positions. The enemy is about to organize a large-scale killing of the gods battle, everyone stay alert. At the top of the building, Rena watched as the low-hovering Taotai Cross Pioneer flagship reconnected with the dark communication of the Xiongbing company and commanded in an orderly manner. Occasionally, the tension of the whole war was relieved by a little playfulness, and everyone seemed to have found the backbone. Bang! At this moment, a gunshot rang out, and Cheng Yaowen's pain groaned through the dark communication, causing everyone's faces to change. Yawen was hit. What happened? I only saw a flash of light passing by. Upon hearing this, Rena quickly hid behind a nearby stone pillar and said, "It's the Godslayer one bullet, which can target the genes of super warriors and disrupt the normal operation of our genetic system. Everyone, be careful to keep it hidden." I see it. As a sniper in the Tianhe River, Qilin keenly sensed the position of the gluttonous sniper after waiting for the opponent to fire a second shot. Without hesitation, she raised her gun, fired, and tactical rolled and dodged. Qilin's location is exposed, Xiaoluan will take Qilin to transfer. The energy of the main gun turret of the Taotai Cross Pioneer flagship in the distance converges, and a large amount of antimatter energy bursts and converges. The blazing light illuminates, and the target points directly to Rena, the commander at the top of the building. Seeing this, Rena's face froze and she didn't dodge. She waved her hand and took out a large shield, walking out in the direction of the gun turret. She is the captain of the Xiongbing company. Commander. She cannot retreat, this is the military power of the Xiongbing company. This building cannot collapse. This is the confidence that the country has instilled in the people. Bang! The raging beam energy cannon twisted the air, as if it was about to tear apart space and project fiercely towards Rena's direction. Rena raised her big shield, stood in front of her, at the edge of the building, with her waist and horse in one, and fought back without flinching. The scorching energy burned the shield red, and Rena's figure was pushed back 2 steps without any intention of escaping. Finally, a fierce bombardment came to an end, and Rena straightened her waist and vigorously swung her shield to her side. This is military prowess. The heat wave still pervading the air stirred up her light golden hair, making Rena appear exceptionally heroic and spirited. Just as he climbed onto the building, Shen Xiu gasped for breath with the spear of God killing, and couldn't help but be dazzled by this scene. Occasionally, Rena still has a goddess-like demeanor. However, it's still foolish. If I were you, I would never relax my guard at this time. Shen Xiu didn't mind being dirty either, so he sat down on the floor of the top floor and glanced at the densely packed spaceships and gluttons flying out like bees leaving their nests. Upon hearing this, Rena didn't pay too much attention to it. She just waved her hand and said, "Wukong, it's up to you." After arranging the tactics, Rena looked at Shen Xiu with a somewhat dissatisfied expression and said, "Why did you come up here? Didn't you just hide?" Upon hearing this, Shen Xiu grinned and realized that the scenery in this place was really beautiful. Unfortunately, he didn't bring his half bottle of Erguotou with him. "Didn't you say that? I'm going to rob that warship." After speaking, Shen Xiu didn't give Rena the chance to continue speaking. He pointed directly at the Cross Vanguard flagship hovering over the city at low altitude and said word by word, "That big guy, equipped with a light energy barrier, as long as the energy is not depleted, or you don't release the gene lock and directly use a big move to bomb, there's basically no way. Do you know again? Rena frowned and keenly noticed that this guy knew too much information in Shen Xiu's words. Who the hell are you? After a while of slowing down, Shen Xiu stood up with the spear of killing the gods, his expression serious. Didn't you say that? Ordinary earthlings, at least for now, are quite ordinary. Don't ask, those gluttonous creatures are raging every moment. Even if you can barely manage that flagship, how many ordinary people's lives will be taken away by so many individual aircraft and scattered gluttonous soldiers? Have you ever considered it? As long as you send me to the side of that flagship, I will have a way to solve it. The words were already very straightforward. Shen Xiu looked at Rena, who was also looking at him seriously, and even used a dark energy analyzer. However, no matter how she looked at it, this guy was just an ordinary earthling, and the only unusual thing was that there seemed to be something on him that she couldn't even analyze. Why do I believe you? Upon hearing this, Shen Xiu smiled and took 2 steps forward. He raised the spear of killing the gods in his hand and said, "Is it okay for me to offer you a paid help just now?" Rena didn't continue talking to Shen Xiu, just turned around and threw 2 energy light balls in her hands towards the Grand Cross Pioneer flagship. However, before the light ball could hit the Pioneer flagship, it was blocked by a suddenly lit energy barrier far from the hull. At the moment, Rena no longer hesitated and connected to the dark energy communication. Rose, retreat immediately. There is a light barrier outside that warship, and even nuclear bombs cannot penetrate. You come to me to pick up someone and transport them through a wormhole to the head of that flagship. He can solve that big guy, while the others fight to the death, desperately providing cover for Rose and providing an opportunity for invasion. Received. Rena's instructions were given without any intention of concealing anything from Shen Xiu, so Shen Xiu could also hear them, which made him instinctively breathe a sigh of relief. Although the beginning was different from what I had imagined, the final process returned to the right track. In no time, a wave of spatial fluctuations arose, and Rose, who had the ability to shuttle through wormholes in time and space, appeared. She glanced at Rena and then at Shen Xiu. Who is he? The person you brought in. Ordinary people. Rena answered, and Rose's brow began to furrow. Are you sure he has that ability? I'm not sure. Upon hearing this, Rena shook her head decisively. But you can give it a try. If he can't do it, you can mobilize the firepower of the South China Sea Fleet to cover it and directly blow up that flagship. Understood. Shen Xiu smashed his mouth, how to say it. It seems like his credibility is not too high. End of this chapter. Chapter 3, Please Call Me Captain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3, Please Call Me Captain. Upon receiving instructions, in order to seize all the time, Rose did not refute anything and walked straight toward Shen Xiu standing on the side. You still have time to refuse now. Once I take action later, I won't take any more time to protect you, or even stop and take you to a safe place. As a super warrior and someone who is more rational than emotional, Rose believes that an ordinary person plays a significant role in this war. For them, the only role that an ordinary person can play is probably to obey arrangements and cooperate with evacuation. If you continue, you may die. Very straightforward and impolite, Shen Xiu just smiled calmly upon hearing the words and said, staying here now may not guarantee survival. Even if you can survive today, you may not be able to continue living tomorrow. Then let's go. Rose turned around and grabbed one of Shen Xiu's arms. A pair of mechanical flying wings behind her began to spin. Before leaving, she gave a faint glance at the spear of killing God, which Shen Xiu had been holding in his hands like a treasure. I don't need to bring this thing anymore. I don't have its data backup. If you need to urgently use micro-wormhole teleportation later, you won't be able to solve it in a short period of time. Across from her, Rena looked at the metal spear emitting a golden glow, then glanced at the reluctant expression on Shen Xiu's face. Subconsciously, she felt the wound on her lower abdomen that had not yet fully healed, and began to ache slightly again. "Mom, how did this living treasure survive in Tianhe City until now? What a pit. Just a low-level divine killing weapon, it was pulled out of his own body. He surprisingly carried such a heavy object like finding some treasure and climbed dozens of floors up here." Shen Xiu's expression hesitated. Firstly, he couldn't bear to part with it. Secondly, he had a tendency to collect some strange things. This spear once pierced through the sun goddess Rena, and it had extraordinary significance. However, big things matter. Shen Xiu couldn't bear to carry this long spear and run over to Robb the glutton. This thing was heavy, and with his current physique, it was difficult to lift it. So, after hesitating for a moment, Shen Xiu let go of his hand and let the spear of killing the gods fall to the floor, and then he was instantly pulled by Rose's arm and flew up. As he flew, Shen Xiu shouted loudly at the charging doll goddess standing next to the building, "Rena, keep an eye on my only property. Can I stay overnight in the Merlot heavenly court and take all the female angels home? It's up to him." At the edge of the building, Rena was so angry by Shen Xiu's words that her chest hurt. This bastard actually took possession of the weapons used by aliens to attack her, and even kept them safe for her to use in pursuing those brainwashing demons like angels in the future. Does this special meow still have natural reason and human nature? Is she such a big sun goddess a decoration? Is Rose's buttocks not big? Surprisingly, they are obsessed with some angels. What kind of mentality are men nowadays? Xiaoluan, Zhao Xian, cover up for Rose's sudden attack. Everyone else has made me restless, trying my best to attract Taotia's firepower and attention. Rena kicked the long spear that had once pierced her through the roof in anger, falling into the space below the top floor. She then observed the speed of the Rose's thrust, and along the way, Gu Xiaoluan kept flying, stumbling and colliding with the gluttonous soldiers and aircraft close to the Rose, and finally landing on the ground. She gritted her teeth with empathy. This iron fool, giving him such a big sword is really just a decoration. It seems that we need to add a basic practical training for him another day. It's useless to just practice and get beaten. Estimating the distance, Rose was about to arrive. Rena notified Rose through the communication channel on the dark side and said, "Rose, I'll light up the barrier for you. Hurry up." "Yes, Captain Rena." 2 light balls condensed in Lena's hand, containing all the raging stellar energy. With a wave of her arm, Rena smashed the light balls out without causing any damage, with the sole purpose of forcing out the invisible light energy barrier and facilitating Rose's calculation of micro-wormholes. Seizing this short moment of opportunity, Rose instantly opened the micro-wormhole, creating a temporal and spatial ripple in front of her. With a mechanical flight wing on her back, she was ready to fly in, but unexpectedly, when it was Shen Xiu's turn, she got stuck and the two of them were suddenly ejected by the self-protection program of the micro-wormhole handling program. "What else are you carrying with you?" Du Qiangwei's face turned pale. She held on to Shen Xiu's arm with one hand and covered her head with the other. Due to the excessive calculation in the moment, she almost froze her genetic system. Now, her head is still in excruciating pain. Waves of excruciating pain spread throughout her body through her nerves, making her appear shaky and on the verge of collapse. At this pause, the figures of Shen Xiu and Rose were detected by the battleships of the Gluttony Legion, and countless small warships flew out of the Grand Cross Vanguard flagship, with guns big and small pointing straight at the two of them. Unfortunately, at this point, Rose's system still had a bit of a crash and could not use the ability of time and space teleportation. She could only endure the headache and rely on mechanical flight wings to transfer. On the other side of the building, Rena, who had been paying attention to Rose, immediately changed her face when she saw this scene. "Oh no! Wukong, hurry up and rescue Rose and that ordinary person." Seeing a dense array of energy light bullets shooting towards him, Shen Xiu tightly hugged Rose's waist and shook her body. Hey, are you okay? With Shen Xiu's shout, Rose regained some clarity and quickly bit her tongue, turning her direction. What do you say? It's impossible to hide, but anyway, she's a soldier. This mysterious bastard who always likes to carry some messy things on her body is a commoner. Protecting her is her responsibility. Without hesitation, Du Qiangwei twisted her body and instantly reversed the position between herself and Shen Xiu. Without much thought, she could only hold on to him tightly, hoping to help him withstand a few more attacks. Shen Xiu only felt a flower in front of him, a smell of gunpowder and cold metal filling his nose. The rose in black armor was not fragrant, let alone soft. As an ordinary person, Shen Xiu's brain melon seed was knocked so hard that he felt dizzy. In his ear, the deep and muffled moans of Rose kept coming, and a damp, hot liquid slid down his forehead. Shen Xiu felt the trembling movement of Rose's body due to the attack, falling with her. For the first time, Shen Xiu fell silent and wanted to get serious. You're a fool. If you can't solve me, just run on your own. I'm just an ordinary person, and I don't have much influence on the war situation. I am a soldier. A soldier from China. As she was about to fall into the river, Rose's gaze was hazy and her ears were buzzing. It seemed as if she would completely leave the world in the next second, but she remained resolute in saying these words. In the end, the two of them did not fall into the river. Sun Wukong, who rushed quickly, transformed into millions and blocked the pursuers. Gu Xiaoluan caught the two and placed Shen Xiu and Du Qiangwei on the bridge, causing endless panic and confusion. Du Qiangwei looked at him without saying a word, without speaking to him. She had already lost her fighting ability. She looked at Shen Xiu next to her, who was resisting without any harm, and said, Rena said you can solve that flagship, you will do it, right? Upon hearing this, Shen Xiu nodded and said, do you want to watch? Maybe it won't take long. According to the first impression I had of Du Qiangwei when I watched the Super Theological Academy before, Shen Xiu didn't really like her, but now it's an exception. Here, it's not anime. But it's a real and cruel world. These people are no longer just anime characters, but also people walking their own thoughts alive. Alien super gene inheritor, Chinese soldier. It's ridiculous that she tried her best to save herself, but she's not a native of this world or country. Rose, you are already injured. I will send you to the rear base for treatment first. Let's go. Beside him, Gu Xiaoluan spoke uncontrollably, looking at Rose with a faint pleading in his eyes. Rose, on the other hand, looked at him angrily and looked disappointed. Let's go. How can we go? We are super warriors trained with national resources. If even we leave, what will happen to the ordinary army? What will happen to the people? What will happen to Tianhe City? Shen Xiu did not participate in the conversation between these two people. He looked up at a large group of Sun Wukong fighting against extraterrestrial individual aircraft in the sky and decided to change the way of illegal immigration. Hey, monkey, keep one, I have a way to deal with that big guy inside. Upon hearing the greeting, Sun Wukong, as the main controller, stopped and lowered his head to glance at Shen Xiu, who had a drunken expression on his face, and gritted his teeth. With a strong grip of the long-haired monkey's hand, a single soldier aircraft named Taotai was caught by Sun Wukong in mid-air, and the Taotai sitting on it was immediately crushed to death by him. Dragging the aircraft, Sun Wukong landed towards the bridge and said, Little doll, you lack some respect for the world. Upon hearing this, Shen Xiu grinned and said, Buddha said, all beings are equal, great sage. I casually exposed this issue, and neither of them took it seriously. Sun Wukong felt that he had become a Buddha and there was no need to compete with a child. Shen Xiu was completely barefoot and not afraid of wearing shoes, breaking jars and falling. These hazy months, who knows if it might just be a dream. Perhaps he succeeded in killing himself and went home. Shen Xiu climbed onto the single-soldier aircraft, adjusted his sitting posture, grabbed it tightly, pointed to the vanguard flagship of the gluttonous army, and turned to look at Sun Wukong. "Throw me up there, I can solve it." Previously, all kinds of attacks were blocked by that light barrier, but since the aircraft of the gluttonous army can freely enter and exit, he should also be able to fish in troubled waters with this small aircraft. The only thing he lacks now is some power. "Little doll, are you not afraid of death?" Sun Wukong tilted his head, his eyes shining with golden light. He scanned the young man and concluded that he was an ordinary earthling with no alien genes. Upon hearing this question, Shen Xiu gave a thumbs up and said, "I'm super brave. Okay, my grandson will help you. If you unfortunately sacrifice yourself, I will do my best to keep these demons for your burial." For the first time, Sun Wukong began to take this young child seriously. The reason for making this decision is twofold. Firstly, his trust in Rena's current comrade status, and secondly, he also discovered something on Shen Xiu that his fiery eyes couldn't even scan to form. The world on Earth is always full of wonder and challenges, isn't it? This time, Sun Wukong clenched his palms and grasped the single-soldier aircraft carrying Shen Xiu. He gritted his teeth and had a fierce expression. With a forceful throw, he threw the spacecraft out, targeting the vanguard flagship of the gluttonous army invading the Earth. Ha ha ha. The cold wind cut through Shen Xiu's cheeks like a small knife, tearing them open one after another. He laughed wildly, numb and arrogant. "Hey, the gluttony on the other side, you are already surrounded by me. This place is covered by me. Do you dare to come and grab the territory? Have you asked for my opinion?" Successfully crossing the barrier of light energy, perhaps as an ordinary person, Shen Xiu was not worth the attention of the gluttons. Not many gluttons paid attention to him, but there were also gluttons who aimed their guns at him. Shen Xiu did not dodge, and took out a mysterious light blue cube from his arms. With a kick on both legs, he jumped off the aircraft and forcefully pressed towards the flagship of the Grand Cross Vanguard, which was close at hand. 3 consecutive beams of antimatter energy pierced through his chest, causing Shen Xiu to struggle with breathing. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose, and Shen Xiu grinned and laughed silently. "Hey, you guys were robbed by me." When the mysterious blue cube comes into contact with the body of the Cross Pioneer flagship, it is like a fish melting into the sea, and a layer of light blue energy ripple instantly spreads out, spreading throughout the entire flagship. In Tianhe City, all the rampant gluttonous flying machines in the city seem to have their Wi-Fi cut off, one after another falling diagonally onto the ground like dumplings, spectacular, destroyed, and damaged. Shen Xiu's chest, which was punctured by the energy beam, was quickly repaired. It was the same as the flagship of the Crusade Pioneer, but the metal structure of the big cross, which was countless times smaller, was created out of thin air. It formed a wonderful connection with the giant flagship of the Taotai Crusade Pioneer, and was integrated. Countless gluttons quickly escaped from the Cross Vanguard flagship, moving slowly, all crushed into gray by blue energy ripples. Taotai, who had escaped by chance, was shocked to see Shen Xiu, who was in tattered condition but with an increasing momentum. Even through a thick layer of metal exoskeleton helmets, one could feel their horror. What kind of black technology is this special? Sorry, I introduced myself a bit late, but everyone else has a code name. You can call me Captain in the future. At this point, the small Cross Vanguard flagship floating behind Shen Xiu had completely devoured and merged with the original large Cross Vanguard flagship, becoming a size commensurate with Shen Xiu. Of course, it was easy to get bigger, under Shen Xiu's control, as long as he had one idea. I have finished introducing myself. Now, please leave. The turret was running, and after picking up a big bargain and having enough ammunition, it was as simple as the instinct of eating and drinking water. Shen Xiu easily controlled the endless flow of firepower, wiping out the remaining gluttony in the sky. Fireworks diffuse, like a brilliant flower blooming in troubled times. The era curtain of the Chaos Hen Academy has been lifted. Although it was a step slower, Shen Xiu himself seized the opportunity to rise. Ignoring the gluttony of those who still shouted at my god Karl before his death, Shen Xiu flew down and returned to the bridge, standing in front of Du Qiangwei. Du Qiangwei still looked at the man in shock. He was clearly just a weak chicken just now, even struggling to lift a spear of god killing, but now he is so explosive. What kind of monster are you? Now, an extraordinary earthling. After establishing a magical connection with the cross-pioneer flagship, Shen Xiu's life level leaped, his strength and physique savagely increased, and his wine had already awakened. He shook his head and said, probably. Over there, other members of the Xiongbing company ran over to gather, including Rena, Zhao Xian, Lu Chuang, Qilin, and Rui Mengmeng. Upon seeing Shen Xiu, Rui Mengmeng, an honest child, didn't pay attention to the four corners of the cross flagship hovering behind him. Instead, she instinctively exclaimed, Brother Shen. Let me talk about it. The captain is currently in his freshman year, and the course is extremely tight. The two books are updated together, and I didn't want to write so much. However, I feel that splitting it into 2 chapters and sending it out in 2 days is not friendly to everyone. After all, the captain, who comes from a reader background, understands the feeling of the author breaking the chapter, so I will publish it all at once. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Leaving. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. Sleeping Trough. What kind of monster? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Sleeping Trough. What kind of monster? In Tianhe City, relying on his speed and special connection with his sub-ships, Shen Xiu collected all the single-soldier airships that could continue to operate. After all, he only had a small family background, and with the help of the internal self-inspection platform of the Vanguard flagship, he could still use them. It was too wasteful to play anymore. In terms of energy, the technological level of the Gluttony Legion certainly does not touch the dark plane and dark energy, which are the most fundamental aspects of divine creation technology, and can only use relatively higher cost antimatter and light energy collection. He still has a clear idea of how much he weighs. Although driven by the Pioneer flagship, his physique has surpassed that of a space-class existence, and he is not afraid of high temperatures, cold, and low pressures. He can survive in space without oxygen, but there are limits to that. Not to mention anything else, just that silly guy Gu Xiaoluan, with a slight development in the middle stage, equipped with a male core, he can be completely defeated by a void negation. After all, that ability can be combined with some control rules in the fantasy plane, creating a shadow out of thin air. Through today's battle, he has been initially exposed to the vision of various civilizations in the universe. Perhaps Morgana and the Grim Reaper Karl will not pay too much attention to it, because they have not yet calculated Shen Xiu specifically. They do not know that his body has a special rule and civilization, or even another evolutionary path. However, the Xiongbing company, which urgently lacks combat power, will definitely find a way to invite him in. That place is too dangerous. Entering the Xiongbing company means being exposed straight under the noses of various civilizations such as angels, demons, Styx, and the scorching sun. You don't even need to hide anymore. Even a person can see that something is wrong with him. Before reaching the level of strength, it's best to have a lewd development. This world is very dangerous, with hidden strength as strong as Rena, noble status, and a terrifying civilization supporting it. It is still played around by demons and gluttons, and subjected to various humiliations. And he is alone, not even Rena, with half a bucket of water in strength and more than enough to fight small soldiers. There is not much he can do when encountering divine bodies, whether he can protect himself is a problem. What are the good waves? Shen Xiu carried a golden spear of killing gods on his shoulder, with a carefree smile on his face, and swaggered away from Tianhe City. Life is more important. The first bucket of gold to step into the infinite world has been solved, and now it's time to become stronger. For him now, the quickest way to become stronger is to increase his technological reserves and arm his accompanying Crusader flagship stronger. A brilliant blue space-time vortex appeared, and Shen Xiu stepped in and disappeared in place. A spatio-temporal program that has been hidden in the blue cubic crystal, after merging with the warship, appears as a control panel on his retina. The program is simple: as long as energy is provided, it can travel randomly without any destination, only the coordinates left by the previous world, like the footprints left by a lonely traveler crossing the heavens and all worlds. As the main world, the Divine Academy may have to return, but it is not advisable to stay here for a long time without self-protection power. In an unfamiliar world, a brilliant blue vortex of time and space appears, once again walking out. The eyes are filled with white icebergs and snowflakes from the past, and the world is vast. The thin atmosphere, extreme cold, and the shadow of a planet getting closer and closer. According to the temperature information detected by the Cross flagship, the current surface temperature has reached a terrifying -84.2 degrees Celsius. Shen Xiu was so cold that his whole body trembled. After adapting for a while, he recovered and his face turned black. If it weren't for the slight signal fluctuations found on this planet, he would have thought it was a dead star. So, this is once again at that corner. If he hadn't robbed a flagship of the Gluttony Cross in advance and crossed over recklessly, this temperature alone would have frozen him into an popsicle. Thinking about that possibility, Shen Xiu felt a wave of happiness in his heart. Crossing the river was risky. Deciphering the radio waves on the surface and connecting them to signals, Shen Xiu let out a muffled groan in an instant, and a large amount of information and sound continuously appeared in his brain. The Beijing 3rd District Transportation Committee reminds you that there are millions of roads, safety is the top priority, and improper driving can cause tears to fall on your loved ones. It is indeed a luxury to keep humanity rational forever. Lu Qi, Dad has never deceived you. You must be able to see me this time. Come on, 3, 2, 1, look up. A large amount of information flowed through Shen Xiufa's brain, causing him to feel a buzzing pain. Unlike Rena and the others, he did not have a dark plane and genetic system to carry it. He could interpret the information on the dark plane, only calculate radio waves and signals, and rely on his own strengthened brain to process the final information obtained. The first time, inexperienced and unable to control the volume well, it was so intense that it almost froze him. Fortunately, after staying for 1 or 2 seconds, he bit his tongue and forcefully regained his energy, shutting down this state. Fortunately, the basic information of this plane has been collected, and even he is quite familiar with this plane. Forcefully hacking into the communication system of the Navigator Space Base, Shen Xiu's voice was a bit hoarse. Lu Peiqiang. Interrupt your father and son's emotional connection. Don't explode yet, I can handle Jupiter. Without time to consider anything else, Shen Xiu flew into the sky, with a scaled-down version of the Cross flagship floating behind him, heading straight into space. In the Navigator space station, Lu Peiqiang, who had just killed the artificial intelligence Moss and was preparing to die heroically, crashed into Jupiter with 200,000 tons of fuel from the space station, igniting hydrogen gas on the surface of Jupiter. Using the explosion to push away the Earth and protect humanity, suddenly heard such a sound and was completely stunned. Because Shen Xiu's communication signal was not concealed in any way, on the ground, Lu Peiqiang's son Lu Qi also heard Shen Xiu's words and shouted urgently, Lu Peiqiang, don't think, just sneak away alone. You owe me. And Grandpa. Duo. You can't just die like this. Lu Qi cried and hissed, the whole person seemed like a fragile foam, which would collapse at the next moment. He has lost a lot along the way, and he doesn't want to be forever separated from the man who has just understood the man who left them for more than a decade. In the space station, Lu Peiqiang remained silent and picked up the communicator. Lu Qi, be strong. This is for all of humanity, and also for you. As a father, the last thing I can do. But someone just said. Space is very large and lonely. Without Moss control, it is not impossible for people on the surface to enter the space station in black. After speaking, both father and son fell silent. After finally flying all the way to the sky, Shen Xiu stopped outside the control room where Lu Peiqiang was, looking at this guy with a speechless expression on his face. There is no sound transmission in space, but the communication signal connected to it has not been disconnected yet. Why can't we have more trust and less suspicion between people? In order to make this guy see his existence more intuitively, Shen Xiu spoke up and said, "Hey, Lu Peiqiang, I asked you to look up. Do you dare to agree?" It was this voice again, and Lu Peiqiang's face was full of gratitude. He instinctively looked up and replied, "Friend, although I appreciate your advice, sacrificing the space station is now the last resort for humanity." Lying down. What a monster. Watching a middle-aged man with widened eyes fall from the control chair, who looked like an expired war wolf, Shen Xiu shrugged helplessly. I don't know how many times I have answered this question. It's a human. Old tie. In the new book period, please find some recommended tickets. After signing the contract, the minimum daily rate will be stable and 4K. The captain will try his best to write exciting stories, and we hope everyone can support us. End of this chapter. Chapter 6 Negotiation. Sharing Prose and Disgrace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Negotiation. Sharing Prose and Disgrace. Lu Peiqiang. What's going on over there? On the ground, Lu Qi's face was filled with tears, and the urgent feeling that his close relatives seemed to disappear in the next second weighed heavily on his breath. Next to Lu Qi, her sister Han Duo gently hugged him, and the two siblings comforted each other in the dungeon, hoping to provide support for their family. It's clear that they all have the same face, but this season of wolf warriors won't work. Shen Xiu shook his head and continued to communicate. Anyway, I have a way to ignite Jupiter, but I have some conditions. What conditions? Overcoming the initial shock, Lu Peiqiang also calmed down and unilaterally cut off communication with his son on Earth, instead connecting to the United Nations. Although prepared to die heroically, it is better to live than to die. Who would want to die? The conditions are not urgent. Shen Xiu didn't pay attention to Lu Peiqiang's small actions, and even helped him by directly broadcasting the scene from space to the United Nations government on Earth in real time. In an instant, both the sound and the visuals were gathered. In the vast and boundless universe, Jupiter is within reach, and there is also a man exposed directly under the starry sky. This picture deeply shakes humanity on Earth. Shen Xiu reached out and a huge void appeared at the muzzle, assembled and structurally deformed. The diameter of the muzzle, which was even longer than Shen Xiu's personal height, was filled with dangerous and dazzling antimatter energy. He gently extended his finger and gestured towards Jupiter on the opposite side. Boom! The raging energy stirred up a faint energy halo in the universe, and the incandescent energy beam shot forward towards the connection point between Jupiter and Earth's atmosphere. Almost in an instant, under the action of high temperature, a large amount of hydrogen in Jupiter's atmosphere reacts with the oxygen pulled by it from Earth's atmosphere. The fiery red flames quickly spread throughout Jupiter, igniting the previously dim planet. The shock waves of endless light and heat spread in all directions, first and foremost being Shen Xiu and the Navigator space station, and then the Earth behind them. A huge cross-vanguard flagship appeared, and in the plane of Wandering Earth, Shen Xiu took out this product belonging to another civilization for the first time, opened up the barrier of light energy, blocked in front of the Navigator space station, and was pushed backwards towards Earth. Of course, when docking into the atmosphere, Shen Xiu did not bring Lu Peiqiang and the Navigator to the space station. It was easy to get down with that thing, but it would be quite troublesome to get up again. Anyway, he has already done everything he needs to do, so how things develop next doesn't have much to do with him. Walking unobstructed all the way into the United Nations headquarters, the speakers of the 5 member states had been waiting for a long time, with different expressions. Shen Xiu walked in and found a seat to sit down. There was nothing embarrassing, a person's confidence comes from their strength. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Shen Xiu, and I have traveled through other time and space. I am also an earthling, and my profession can be understood as a bounty hunter or something like that. I offer paid assistance and refuse to engage in prostitution for free. Upon hearing Shen Xiu's words, the 5 giants across from each other glanced at each other. Finally, the person in charge of the Asian region spoke up and asked, "Mr. Shen, is that correct? May I ask if this is the appropriate way to address you?" "Of course, not a problem," Shen Xiu nodded. "The atmosphere is still very harmonious, and everyone is communicating with each other in a friendly manner. There is no such thing as a sword pulling out a spear. Can you explain the relevance of time and space shuttle and your purpose of coming here?" Upon hearing this, Shen Xiu shook his head and said, "Even if time and space travel is okay, I can't handle it myself. As for crossing over, of course, it's to avoid disasters." After finishing speaking, he looked at the surprised expressions on the faces of several old men and helplessly spread out his hand. "Don't look at me being quite strong, that's because compared to you, your Earth can run away quickly when it encounters solar helium flashes. We happen to encounter alien invasion on our side, and we don't want anything, just to create a killing to please their civilization like the main god." God. Every sentence and word in Shen Xiu's mouth stimulated these elderly people whose nerves had been tense for many years. The concept of God is something that no rational leader would like. The so called God refers to the product of using divine engineering to develop super genes after the development of technology to a certain level. Ordinary divine bodies can live for hundreds of thousands of years or even longer without dying or extinction based on infinite physical light energy. In theory, as long as they are not fatally hit, their genetic system is not damaged, and they basically belong to the category of immortality. I know a young sun goddess who can manipulate all the energy sources of known stars in the universe at will, even causing the sun to explode instantly. However, because she is too young and has high killing power, many of her abilities are blocked by genetic locks and cannot be used casually. There are several more powerful, intelligent, and uncontrollable main gods than her. In my world, the earth is so straight exposed to the eyes of the major civilizations in the universe, and I am special. Other people follow the path of genetic system evolution or mecha. I compare metaphysics and follow the anime path. Those gods are research maniacs who like to explore the unknown. In order not to be dissected, I went to other time and space to take refuge and find opportunities to become stronger. Shen Xiu said a lot. For the first time in so many days, he said so much. A young master named Shi once fooled a country with milk and bread, causing a world war. He felt that this technique of using empty hands to trap a white wolf was worth learning from. So, is Mr. Shen thinking? Perhaps one could roughly guess Shen Xiu's intention, but the people across from him were somewhat silent. However, Shen Xiu didn't care either. As earthlings, although not in the same time and space, I believe I am qualified to become your Lord God. I will provide you with shelter and become your support. At the same time, I need a solid backing to progress together with me and never give up. From now on, we will be the same civilization. If I am strong, you will be strong. No one dares to touch you in all parts of the universe and in all realms. Honor and disgrace are shared. The conference hall fell into silence, and everyone was thinking about the possible situation they might face next, the gains and losses, and the future path. Mr. Shen, this is already a common matter for all mankind. It's impossible for us to make a decision at once. Can you give us some time to discuss it? How long will it take? 3 days. Shen Xiu stood up, turned around, and walked out of the conference hall. A dedicated person led him to rest elsewhere. 3 days later, please reply to me. If you don't agree, settle the cost of today's transaction. The energy consumption is quite high. By making an undirected crossing, the energy reserve of the entire Cross Pioneer flagship has increased from the remaining 3/4 to half. The previous shot did not consume much energy, so we can go sunbathe the stars in the sky another day to replenish our solar energy reserve, although the efficiency is slightly slower. In the next 3 days, whether to return to the Divine Academy or go to the next world should be carefully considered. For this wandering little ball, he is determined to win. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Queen's Chest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Queen's Chest. The reconstruction work in Tianhe City has already begun. Thanks to Lena's foolish sister resisting a city-destroying anti-material energy cannon from the gluttonous army, the main body of this city has been preserved. The people who were previously forced to evacuate have also returned to their homes, and a small portion of those whose homes were destroyed by this war are temporarily staying in rescue camps. All kinds of post-disaster work are orderly, and people who have lost loved ones do not have time to feel too sad, so they return to building their homes and putting their lives back on track. Perhaps these are ordinary people. Faced with natural and man-made disasters, they have no resistance. In the face of misfortune, they can only force a smile and keep fighting to continue their lives. Especially in countries like China, the concept of everyone and a small family is deeply ingrained in people's hearts. Those who still exist will continue to work hard for their families, and those who survive alone will continue to move forward with the hope of their families. Life is still very long, even though fate has played countless excessive jokes on them, they can only pray for a better tomorrow. There was not much consideration at all. On the first night of the Wandering Earth plane, Shen Xiu silently opened the vortex of time and space, and actively returned to the plane of the Super Theological Academy. Without him, Shen can't accept this kind of earthworm spicy noodles that are even heavier than LV Ziqiao's earthworm biscuits for now, nor can he withstand the stimulation of dry frying cockroaches. By contrast, he chose spicy hot pot in Tianhe City, which is very popular. Paired with a bottle of Erguotou, it's even more comfortable. Sitting on the roadside stall that had just been set up for a while, Shen Xiu was enjoying his dinner with simple tables and chairs. The surrounding streets are somewhat desolate, with a large number of abandoned cars parked on the road in a crooked manner. On the ground, there are large and small gun pits, bullet casings, and some inconspicuous bright red carbon-based biological tissues. The smell of gunpowder diffuses in the wind. Uncle Spicy Hot Pot was silent. After finishing Shen Xiu's list, he did not continue. He lit a crumpled Hua Zi and sat on the curb. He looked at the dark sky above his head with blurred eyes. There would be no guests today. To tell the truth, Shen Xiu was unexpected. At the super seminary, Rena, who had worked hard all day and was still honorably injured, rubbed her lower abdomen and walked out of the bathroom, preparing to return to the bedroom to rest. Suddenly, her phone was dialed. Seeing that it was a call from Ducao, Rena quickly answered the call. Rena, the little brother who appeared in Tianhe City before to help us solve the problem with the flagship of the gluttonous army's cross vanguard has appeared. The voice on the other end of the phone paused, and Rena fell silent for a moment. She felt a slight tightness in her chest again, which was an instinctive physiological reaction. She had become accustomed to that bastard's anger. Where is he? The sun goddess gritted her silver teeth and spoke word by word. She said it, don't let her encounter it again. Otherwise. Tianhe City, a snack stand. It seems that he noticed Rena's emotional fluctuations and was afraid of her doing something bad, so Ducao quickly added, no matter who he is, since he is willing to help the earth, he is not an enemy. I want Ajay to go with you and invite him to join the Xiongbing company. Can he do it? Upon hearing this, Rena raised her eyebrows slightly and said, after joining the Xiongbing company, is he also under my control? Of course. Ensure completion of the task. Rena smiled happily, with a hint of anticipation in her eyes. The pitiful look of some bastard being oppressed by her devil training seemed to have appeared before her eyes. Rena quickened her pace and returned to the dormitory, finding a clean set of clothes to change into amidst the surprised gazes of Qilin and Rumingmeng. Then she took a big step out. "Aren't Rena tired?" Honest child Rumingmeng looked at Qilin with a bewildered expression, hoping to get the answer from this knowledgeable female police officer sister. However, Qilin sat on her bed and thoughtfully touched her chin. "Maybe Rena is in love," she said. "Hey. Aren't Rena an alien? Why can't aliens fall in love?" Qilin gave this silly little sister a bad look and shook her head helplessly. "Forget it, I told you I don't understand," she said. "By the way, didn't you quite like your brother Shen before? Why didn't you talk about him today?" Rumingmeng, who was originally serious about reading a computer science book, stopped at Qilin's words and couldn't help but darken her face. "Brother Shen is so supernatural, what I like is the one who used to be an ordinary person," she said. "Meng, what kind of bizarre idea are you? Isn't it pretty good to be protected by your boyfriend?" Originally in the 4-person dormitory, Rose was hospitalized and hasn't returned yet. Rena went out with a face full of joy, leaving only Qilin and Rumingmeng behind. Now, Miss Qilin's expression gradually solidified as she looked at Rumingmeng with a serious expression on her face. This silly little sister is not right. Something's super wrong. "Handsome guy, can I sit here?" In Tianhe City, Shen Xiu was unaware that a sun goddess with a high level of hatred towards him was on his way, and his mind was thinking of fooling him into the Xiongbing company and training him vigorously. He looked at the woman who suddenly appeared on the street and walked straight towards him, without a seat and not feeling dirty, so he moved a fallen tire and sat opposite him, completely stunned. This woman is very beautiful. The whole body is filled with a special fragrance, very tempting. Yes. Temptation. Whether it's her figure or her face. Even the common outfits she wears are full of temptation. Shen Xiu put down the Erguotou in his hand, picked up a string of skewers and took a bite, frowning as he looked at her. "No way. You're disturbing my view of the earth, and your scent is affecting my taste of the battlefield smoke. Get back home, big girl. Don't run around outside all day when it gets dark." Across from her, the woman was so angry by Shen Xiu's words that she couldn't speak. She took a deep breath and decisively connected to the dark communication with her demon wings, asking a somewhat depressed question. "Otto, am I beautiful, Queen?" The Queen is the most charming existence in the entire universe. In the dark communication, a hoarse voice from the vicissitudes of life sincerely said, while Morgana still looked depressed. "Then this bastard must be blind, right? Maybe. Forget it, Queen. I'm too lazy to talk to you. First, I'll trick this guy into joining us. This time, I've encountered a treasure. I can't even figure out where this guy is from, and I don't know where the wild monster jumped out." As a queen, Morgana still has a big heart, in various meanings. So, for Shen Xiu's words, she treated them as ignorant remarks from a child. She believed that there was no man in the universe that she could not conquer with her charm. If there is, just call the server. The signed contract has already been shipped out by express delivery on Monday. Once the signing status changes, we will update it every Tuesday to ensure a minimum. We are looking for investment, collection, and recommended tickets for the new book. End of this chapter. Is this evil enough in Chapter 8? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this evil enough in Chapter 8? First of all, the first step of abduction is to pull each other closer. Morgana walked over to Shen Xiu as if she hadn't seen his disdainful expression on her face, and sat down on her buttocks. "Hey, hey, hey. The stool is already small, how spicy is your butt? It's squeezing me." God knows how hairy Shen Xiu's heart is now. His entire back is covered in cold sweat, but his face is becoming even calmer. Perhaps this is the magic of Erguotou. A little bit of wine, let Li Bai spit out half of the prosperous Tang dynasty, let Wu Song fight the fierce tigers of Jingyang bare-handed. Today, also make Shen fearless of the demon queen's deterrent power. During this time period, this place, daring to dress so recklessly, with such a high appearance, and a woman he didn't know, besides Morgana, Shen Xiu couldn't think of any other possibilities. Sister, it's because I like you that I'm so close. I'm an angel, so be content. Morgana rolled her eyes and didn't care about Shen Xiu's words. She confidently picked up 2 skewers from the table in front of Shen Xiu and started eating them. Not to mention, these snacks are quite delicious. The woman was so critical that Shen Xiu frowned deeply. Are you taking advantage of me? Just eat, it's my treat today, but you need to answer a few questions. Morgana was very atmospheric, but Shen Xiu increasingly felt something was wrong. What do you mean? Are you teaching me how to do things? Do you want to learn? As one of the 2 main gods with the strongest known cosmic mouth evasion skills, Morgana, who had calmed her mentality, naturally did not fall behind in the face of Shen Xiu's unpleasant deliberate difficulties. Instead, she arrogantly gently pinched his chin. Cough cough, what's going on, young man? Uncle, I'll go to the restroom first, and I'm out of ingredients. You guys should finish eating and go home soon. I'll treat you to this meal today. Over there, the uncle crouching on the curb smoking huazi became more and more uncomfortable with these 2 people, and in the end, his old face couldn't help but turn red. Young people nowadays, they are indecent. Back then, when he was dating his old lady, he didn't have so many ways to play, let alone how quickly things developed when they first met. The boss of the spicy hot pot stall left quickly, away from this place. Shen Xiu looked at himself with his eyes fixed on him, as if he was looking at some big treasure. He felt a bit scared in his heart. Watching Shen Xiu's increasingly serious expression, Morgana smiled and let go of her hand, continuing to eat skewers. She also grabbed the remaining half bottle of Erguotou from Shen Xiu's hand, took a sip with her head up, and then breathed a refreshing sigh. Oh, this little thing is quite exciting. By the way, what do you think of evil? What do you think? Shen Xiu looked down and glanced at Morgana's towering chest. I think you're quite evil. Upon seeing this, Morgana angrily nudged Shen Xiu's chest with her elbow and said, Where are you looking? I'm serious. I am also seriously answering you, your scale is indeed not ordinary evil. Forget it, then tell me, what do you think of the word, justice? Morgana rubbed her eyebrows with a headache. Why is this thing so weird? Justice, Shen Xiu pondered and snatched the last string from Morgana's hand. I am the strongest. What I say and do is justice, and those who do not obey me are evil. Upon hearing this, Morgana instantly widened her eyes in surprise and looked at Shen Xiu. I didn't see anyone wrong. You're quite talented. Come on, if I could grant you a wish now to be evil, what would you do? This guy is not only a strange carrier of civilization, but also a little kid with a very similar philosophy to herself. Morgana has decided that even if this little guy is unwilling today, she will forcibly snatch him back. Damn it, cultivate the rhythm of being a great general again. Shen Xiu remained silent, and the corner of his eye caught sight of the figure of a sun goddess slowly approaching on the other side of the road. He breathed a slight sigh of relief in his heart. Then, he looked at Morgana's gaze with some playfulness and said, As long as it's evil, anything can be done. Of course. Queen, I say no too. Morgana nodded confidently. As soon as the words fell, Shen Xiu reached out and wrapped his arms around her jade-like neck. Before Morgana could react, he lowered his head and kissed her. Over there, in the middle of the night, a fighter jet flew over just to catch this infuriating bastard, but he was actually flirting with his sister. Her chest was heaving violently, and Rena felt a dull pain in her chest. She really wanted a solar flare to burn this bastard to death. Indeed, Compared to inviting him into the Xiongbing company and then training and torturing him fiercely, it would be more practical to beat him hard all at once and relieve his anger. Long time, lips parted. The taste is surprisingly good. Is this evil enough? Watching the playful expression on Shen Xiu's face, Morgana gritted her silver teeth and clenched her pink fists, suppressing her murderous intent with an ugly smile. Very evil. It's so evil that I want to punch you to death. Over there, Rena was walking over. Morgana took a glance and withdrew her gaze. She stood up and gently touched Shen Xiu's cheek. Little one, you're great. I remember you, Queen. The current bear child is still a bit mischievous, not round enough. It seems that we'll have to deal with it for thousands of years. Morgana has left, and she doesn't really want to meet Dylanet directly. It's not that she's afraid of that wet little girl, but mainly the place where she appeared. The protection of the sun star must also be hidden in the atmosphere and silently protected. The now severely damaged Liang civilization is already a stimulated beast. Although it usually values national security and people's safety, if anyone is found to have bad intentions towards their main god Rena, those guys will definitely go crazy and kill the earth. Don't let the relentless beating of Liang civilization expose her tracks before she is discovered by the little Bichi under Kaisha's Bichi. Without complete preparation, Rena is just a bomb that can explode at any time, and even Morgana is unwilling to easily touch it. A temporal and spatial wave rose, and after taking a few steps, Morgana suddenly disappeared into the alley. The figure of Morgana appeared in the main control room of the Devil's Winged main ship, and then left with a black face and no words. Artaist, give the Queen my full surveillance of that little bastard. As soon as he separates from Rena, notify me of the Xiongbing company as soon as he leaves. It wasn't until Morgana left completely that the atmosphere in the control room relaxed a bit. The demon, known as Artaist, had a sympathetic expression on his dark face, watching his old brothers and comrades who had fought together for thousands of years. Otto, the Queen's first kiss is gone, it's not you. Upon hearing this, the sword demon Otto's already dark face turned even darker and greener. His face twitched and he silently closed his eyes, saying, if the Queen loves me, she's not my queen. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. I Want Rena. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. I Want Rena. Morgana left, and Shen Xiu wiped his mouth with a tissue, unable to tell whether he was grateful or regretful. The taste of angels is good, just like angels who have fallen into demons. However, Morgana is still too stingy. She agreed to treat them, but ended up evading the bill without even paying. I have decided not to eat with her in the future unless she makes up for the outstanding meal expenses. Rena looked at someone's aftertaste and suddenly walked over in anger, slamming hard on the table in front of him. Shen Xiu glanced at her, took out some notes from his pocket, pressed them on the table with a bowl, and said quietly, be gentle, the boss has only his family resources. Don't let others destroy the stall. It's hard to hear that the sun goddess bullied the spicy hot pot stall and the poor shopkeeper uncle. You. Rena was so angry by Shen Xiu that she reached out and took it back, not even if she didn't take it back. Because she either loses face or oppresses the people. So, why is this bastard so annoying? Later, Ajay watched as Rena, who was about to explode, quickly took 2 steps forward, pressed down on her raised arm, and effortlessly brought the atmosphere back together. It's like this, Mr. Shen. Through your tremendous contributions and outstanding performance in defending Tianhe City during the war, we hope to invite you to join our army company to defend the country and the people together. I refuse. There was no hint of consideration at all, and Shen Xiu refused without even thinking about it. I met Morgana before joining the Xiongbing company, and I was still thinking about it. If I joined the Xiongbing company, it would really be dancing with all the demons and monsters in the known universe. No, Mr. Shen, don't you even want to protect your country? Meng Meng admires you very much. Ajay is a bit anxious to see that this recruitment task is about to fail and his record of never losing is about to be shattered. Then, Shen Xiu shrugged calmly and said, if we can protect this planet within our capabilities, I have no obligation to do so. However, it has nothing directly to do with joining the Xiongbing company. As for Rui Mengmeng, that little fool, honest. To be honest, Shen Xiu is really not too embarrassed to deceive her. The little girl is obedient and cute, and silly and cute is like a little sister. Every time we meet, we call her brother. Can Shen Xiu still bully her? But Mr. Shen now has this kind of strength. Ordinary girls are no longer in the same realm as you, so why don't you consider the girls in our army? They all have superpowers. And they are also very beautiful like flowers. Shen Xiu's face remained expressionless. Women only affect the speed at which I draw my sword. Are you kidding me? These words just fooled those losers like Gu Xiaoluan and even used to deceive him. I really think Shen is a fool. Don't even see who he is. Speaking of mouth evasion, Shen Dahua is also a professional. Seeing what the MLM leader was about to say, Shen Xiu interrupted him directly. Actually, it's not impossible for me to join. I have a few requests. Shen Xiu stared intently at Rena, her naked and undisguised gaze making the goddess's expression somewhat unnatural, her eyes slightly dodging. Next to him, Ajay didn't listen to what was going on and waved his hand. I agree. I don't have time to train with others, I have my own way to become stronger. No problem. For Ajay, it's not a big deal for Shen Xiu to have any demands. As long as someone is fooled into the Xiongbing company, the rest is what General Dukao should be worried about, and it has nothing to do with him. On the other hand, Lena's eyes widened slightly as she heard these words. She realized that this guy was really slippery, and her plan had already been stillborn before it could be implemented. I still have time to go out for training alone, and I won't stay in the army often. I can only guarantee to come back when the war starts to fight to protect the earth. Ajay continued to wave his hand and said, sure. I need technological support. High-tech weapons can quickly strengthen my strength and attack range. As long as they can provide me with enough weapons and energy, one person is enough to become an army. I can ask General Ducao for your advice on this, but I can't make the decision for now. The last one, I want Rena. Shen Xiu extended his finger and pointed to Rena, who was listening to this bastard's request and her face was getting darker and darker. Suddenly, Rena, who was carefree, was frightened by Shen Xiu's sudden attack and covered her chest, taking 2 steps back. You! What are you doing? I am the goddess of the sun star, and volunteering to help the earth does not mean I have to accept unreasonable orders from the earth. Rena, who has always been strong, was scared like a little girl. No, she was just a little girl. For gods who often have a lifespan of tens of thousands or even millions of years, Rena's early 20s, in front of truly mature gods, is truly a little girl who has not even grown mentally. Moreover, she is a little girl who has been staying at home from childhood to adulthood, receiving feudal education, and has never been in love. Although this jerk is annoying and infuriating, compared to the rookies in the army, Shen Xiu is indeed very outstanding, which makes Rena suddenly feel a bit unsure how to refuse. Love is impossible in this lifetime. After all, the world is so big and there are so many beautiful clothes, she hasn't enjoyed enough yet. If she falls in love, isn't it a waste of her time? Moreover, knowing that Rui Mengmeng is interested in this bastard, as the eldest sister, Rena is actually a bit ashamed at this moment. Sure enough, it's not good if the goddess is too charming. In Shen Xiu's frank words, even Ajay, who had been nodding in agreement beside him, couldn't bear to look down. No, brother, chasing girls is not like this. We need to take it slow. Heart to heart. Heart to heart is the most important thing. Watching the reactions of these two people, Shen Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "You don't think I like Rena, do you? Isn't it? It's a ghost. I'm not blind, just like Lena. Besides being a bit good-looking, what other advantages do you have? Bastard, you have a problem with me. Shen's words made Lena instantly angry. She rushed forward and grabbed his collar. Shen Xiu rolled his eyes in silence and said, "Look, you're not too aggressive. What I like is a gentle girl, just like her." Shen shook his head in disappointment and frantically probed on the brink of death. Across from him, Ajai's eyebrows and mud pill palace jumped and jumped. He felt that if he didn't round this up, he would definitely splatter blood 5 steps today. No, embraced by the warmth of the sun, I can't even leave Ash. Ajai frantically gestured to Lena, raised 3 fingers, and then blinked at Shen Xiu. What does Mr. Shen mean? I want Rena to help me replenish my energy anytime, anywhere, unconditionally. After all, I need a lot of energy in my daily life, and I don't think you can afford it either. Lena still hasn't let go. Ajai has already opened 5 fingers. Everyone, the signed contract has been sent to Shanghai. If you want to invest and make a small profit, this is the last time. After signing the contract, you will have to wait for it to be listed and results to be released before you can receive investment returns. Seeking investment. As soon as the signing status changes, we will start with a minimum of 2 shifts every day. Autumn pear cream. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Are you having a brain problem? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Are you having a brain problem? Shen Xiu quietly watched as the small expression on his face kept changing, unsure of what Lena was thinking. It's impossible to be angry. She's also considered a goddess to some extent. It's so easy to get angry there, so Shen Xiu doesn't have much psychological burden. This is probably in communication, saying things he doesn't want to hear. Because Shen Xiu's level of strength has not yet reached the level of mastering the dark plane, and he does not have any dark energy, he has nothing to do with the communication channel between Lena and Ajai. The world of technology is so cruel, whoever has strong technology will be strong. It can be said that on the technology side, there is almost no situation where the protagonist erupts in a battle and wins against a stronger opponent, unless the author cheats. Lena, it's almost done. Before coming out, Ducao specifically instructed us not to engage in hostility even if we can't win over. We respect the choices of every people. On the dark communication channel, Ajai tried his best to persuade, but Lena's remained unmoved. This is about the goddess's face. If you want me to calm down, at least twice as much. That's my monthly salary. Upon hearing this, Ajai was so angry that she was about to vomit blood and tears welled up in her eyes. Lena lightly pursed her lips and said, "Don't think I don't know. Every time you deceive someone, you get a bonus. Stop talking nonsense, I'll come with you this time too. We'll split the money in half when we meet, and the bonus belongs to you. Your salary for this month belongs to me. When I buy 10 sets of the latest seasonal fashion, I'll return the card to you." Humph, 1 or 2 of them, they all treat her like Lena is stupid. They don't even take care of her when there's good news. Even Rui Mengmeng has a salary, and she's not even arranged for her. The sun goddess is very angry. She must buy back all the clothes that have been coveted for so long this time. Not to mention how to relieve Qi for now, it's only reliable if you can actually get the benefits. Across from him, Ajai nodded with tears in his eyes, struggling. In an instant, my heart was so painful that I couldn't breathe. I hope you can give me a reimbursement for public expenses. I won't come out again to recruit people next time. The risk of doing such a thing is too high. The goal was achieved, and Lena suddenly laughed happily. She casually let go of the small hand holding Shen Xiu's collar and obediently helped him tidy up his dress. Energy can be given to you, but I don't want you to be absent in future wars. This is Earth, my home. Although it is not the same Earth, the civilization and sense of belonging on it destined that Shen Xiu would not turn a blind eye to its safety. Also, when you enter the Xiongbing company in the future, I will be the captain. You need to listen to me, don't you know? Look at your performance. Shen Xiu rolled his eyes and looked at Rena, who was proud and delicate. Suddenly, he felt a desire to bully her. Is it quite interesting to see such a beautiful goddess crying when bullied? The quality of labor and management. Follow Rena and Ajay towards a nearby tall building. On the rooftop of that building, there is an armed helicopter waiting for a long time. Shen Xiu and Rena took the opportunity to sit in the back seat, while Ajay sat in the passenger seat. The helicopter slowly took off. Suddenly, Shen Xiu leaned out half of his body as if thinking of something, and grabbed the helicopter with one hand towards the gradually shrinking Tianhe City area on the ground. A scaled-down version of the cross flagship, whoosh, broke through the water under the Tianhe River crossing bridge and flew straight up into the sky, following Wuji towards the direction of the coastline. Just thinking about how to bully Rena would create such interesting scenes, I almost forgot that I haven't brought my warship yet. Before, in order to eat a hot meal and not want to be treated like an alien, which scared ordinary people, Shen Xiu had to hide his warship at the bottom of the river. Unexpectedly, he could even forget such an important thing. It should be said that men do indeed belong to the big pig hooves. To be honest, this warship can only shrink to the same height as itself at most, and it cannot be optically invisible, which is a bit inconvenient. These two questions, although neither of them is a very rare technology and cannot directly enhance one's own strength, can make it much more convenient for him in his daily actions. Flying all the way to the South China Sea and getting off the plane, Shen Xiu watched as Rena eagerly pulled a bank card from Ajay's hand, and with Ajay's pyramid scheme leader's painful expression on his face, he seemed to understand something. However, when he saw Rena's kind smile, Shen chose to calmly ignore it. What's so surprising? It must be that Ajay's grandson owes Rena money that hasn't been repaid. It must be like this. Let's go, I'll take you to your dormitory. Our dormitory is not divided into male and female areas. Don't wander around at night, okay? Putting a small black card into her dark side, Rena's mood noticeably improved, with the most obvious manifestation being her occasional humming of an unnamed joyful tune. Arriving at the entrance of a dormitory, Rena opened the door and threw the key to Shen Xiu, about to leave. Shen Xiu quickly grabbed her. Just a moment. Turning around and gently kicking the door shut, Shen Xiu's face lit up with a gentle smile exclusive to scumbags. She approached her pretty face step by step, feeling a bit confused, while Rena retreated step by step. Rena, I've been wanting to tell you something for a long time. Suddenly, one arm supported the wall and pinned Rena, who had no way to retreat, to the perfect wall thump. As Shen Xiu and herself got closer and closer, Rena's gaze began to dodge, her body trembled slightly, and a faint golden light appeared in her pupils. Shen climbed onto the goddess's waist with a big hand and slid towards her lower abdomen, each movement causing Rena's sensitive body to tremble. Shen Xiu lightly poked her flat and sturdy lower abdomen, his tone somewhat exclaiming, "It only took a few hours to fully grow up. Will it still hurt?" Upon hearing this, Rena suppressed the strange sensation on her body and pursed her lips, with a hint of shame in her eyes. She slapped away this guy's mischievous hand. Don't touch the goddess recklessly. It will cause death. What exactly are you going to say? When his hand was slapped, Shen Xiu didn't care, but he felt a bit embarrassed on his face. He rubbed his hand and said, "So, why don't you recharge me first? You can also see this big guy behind me. It's almost running out of energy." Bang! With a muffled sound and a flash of golden light, the entire Juxia aircraft carrier trembled for a moment. Shen Xiu suddenly flew backwards, welded into the walls of the metal cabin, and couldn't even pull out that kind of thing. Rena's expression was slightly cold, and she looked at someone with disdain. "You're a person with a brain problem, right? The good goddess is here, this bastard is actually thinking of energy. Do you want to be such a disgusting goddess?" Xiaomian felt both fortunate and depressed. Rena pulled the cross flagship, which was trembling in mid-air, over with one hand and slowly charged it. Bastards who don't know how to appreciate the true charm of goddesses should be given a set of god-killing sunbathing. Too annoying. End of this chapter.